your all's caliber on the stage here to present your project to us. As I was saying to Alixium before you got here, Nover, thank you guys so very much. I know I'm excited to hear what you guys are here to talk about, and I'm sure the community is too.
Awesome.
Amazing.
All right, guys. So with that said, let us begin. As always, I would like to begin the show with a quick disclaimer. As with all cryptocurrency content online, everything, and I mean everything that you are about to hear is not in any way to be construed as financial advice, and everything said will represent specifically the opinions of the speaker, not necessarily the opinions of the entirety of the Wolves of Alt Street, myself, or Team Kandyland. And with that said, welcome, guys, to the Wolves of Alt Street.
Amazing.
Very well said.
All right. And now, before we really get into it heavy, I just want to ask you guys to go ahead and introduce yourselves to the community and let us know anything that you feel we ought to know about you to get to know you.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess I'll go first quick, if that's all right.
yeah, of course.
Okay, so I'm Alixium. My first name is actually Alec, but I go by Alixium online. I'm the sole founding member of Kandyland. I originally founded it and I built a team around it. It was an idea about a month ago, and we came pretty far so far. And yeah, I'm 25 years old. I have a lot of experience in running and starting up businesses. Most failed, but some of them did okay. That's kind of the nature of businesses.
Absolutely.
So,
I've got a lot of
yeah.
friends in business, and they'll tell you straight away that you try, you fail, and then you fail harder, and then you try harder, and then you'll make it.
Exactly, man. Yep. But you learn a lot through all your mistakes, and so I'm ensuring that no mistakes are gonna occur this time on this one. This is my first crypto project, by the way, but I do have a lot of experience in crypto investing in general, and made a decent amount of money from crypto investing. So hopefully, this project kicks off with no problems. So, all right, Nova can go.
Okay, amazing. My name is Nover, and as Alixium said, he's the original founding member, and I joined soon after in helping him get this project on track. I have a background in economics and management, and therefore it's quite and interesting to be a part of this. I have studied quite a bit of what are they? The DeFi, other DeFi protocols like Olympus, Wonderland, and alternative forks, and we are trying to bring as much value as we can to our investors with this project. And as Alixium said, some projects fail, some projects succeed. That's why we're, taking our time to put as much kind of security and ensure that our investors' funds are at least staying, protected by KYCs and so forth. But we will get into that a little bit later.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, with that, I'll go ahead and get right into it. Guys, tell us a little bit, at least in general, about Kandyland's roadmap, because I'm curious how effectively you guys feel you're hitting your timeline.
Okay. So as far as what we have planned, or
Yeah, in general, just sort of the near future. Because a lot of us here have already seen a lot about Ohm fork projects, and I'm just sort of curious about how you guys feel you're doing as far as your roadmap.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, so we're still in stage 1 right now. We'll be in stage 2 after once the launch hits, but I think we're doing pretty decent. To be honest with you, starting off, we're not really having anything too exciting happening other than the DAO being a new DAO and launching, a DAO you can trust. But we're just gonna have an audit done. That's the last thing that needs to be done for stage 2, third-party audit before we launch, and then we're going into stage 2, which is the whitelist. A whitelist pre-sale, then available to the public. That's basically stage 2, and then everything else will basically it's really like just kind of a tease, a brief overview of what we're going to be doing in the future. It's
Okay.
nothing, too
Yeah.
detailed just yet, but we have a lot of stuff to expand on. But right now, we're putting like all of our brain power into ensuring this launch is really smooth.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but
And I
we
wanted
have a lot of
to go through some of that a little bit as well, because the stage one
Sure.
it basically revolves around the ensuring, as we have on the website, Kandyland's public reveal, which was accomplished. Our marketing phase is essentially comprised of pushing the Twitter and Discord as much as possible, and we have been gaining a lot of traction on Discord, especially growing about 500 to 1,000 members daily.
Excellent.
Alixium here is KYC'd by Assure, which is, I feel like, as an investor, is quite an important factor when deciding where to invest. And as soon as all the code is completely finished, we have the funds dedicated to get a full audit done by a third party to ensure that there's no kind of issues with security or whatsoever. And as soon as all of that is complete, we will move into stage two, acquiring the initial liquidity needed to essentially start the project on a good note. We will talk about that slightly later, but I feel like it's also important to mention what actually is Kandyland DAO and how it separates. As Alixium said, right
Sure.
now at this point, it's right now at this point it could be called a fork, but as the terms go, we will be moving into the spoon factor slightly sooner.
Yeah.
As I've been reading up, one of the ideas that we had to implement moving forward is definitely a locking mechanism. Essentially, what you have right now is that you're staking and earning like KANDY, stake KANDY for just being a staker. But what we want to do to reduce sales pressure even more is to implement a locking mechanism. So essentially, users would be able to potentially lock their funds lock their stake funds. And earn additional rewards for doing so, which in turn decreases the sales pressure and helps with the treasury and everything else of that sort. But that will come later in the future. What else separates us from the other forks is the fact that we will be also having a strong focus on the gaming and music ecosystems, as that have been mentioned on our website. And what does that mean? Well, it means simple one thing, that we will have a lot of our votes prioritized towards these ecosystems. What we hope to accomplish is to actually push these spheres forward and actually become a major player in these spheres. So yeah, and in other terms, we are planning to go live very soon, just covering the last things.
Yeah. So we've mentioned that it's a fork of a very popular crypto project right now, Ohm, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
What made you guys want to create another Ohm fork? Because it really feels, to me at least, as an observer, like we have a highly saturated market.
Yeah, I can answer that. So, it's actually a back-end fork of Olympus and a front-end fork of Wonderland. Because I liked
Okay.
Wonderland's front end a bit better. But, I actually discovered Wonderland Time about a month and a half ago, something like that. And I actually absolutely fell in love with the protocol and how it worked and how it operated when I learned about it.
Yeah,
I
that's
was very
about the same
excited about
time
it.
a few of our guys learned about it.
Yeah. So I absolutely loved it. Like, I've known about, excuse my language, but shit coins for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I could have started a shitcoin project years ago, and I never did because I didn't actually like them. I didn't believe in them. But I actually really do believe in the 333 or the 3.3 protocol, and I see a lot of potential in this. I really do think it's DeFi 2.0. So yes, I did want to hop on the train before it got too saturated and be one of the early adopters. But I also want to actually introduce some proprietary, features and revolutionize the scene a little bit, kind of stand out from the other ones, because as you know, there's a lot of these forks are just forks and they're just money grabs.
Yeah.
We don't want to be one of those at all. We want to separate ourselves from all those. So that's kind of my mindset when I went into this.
A lot of my personal skepticism when it comes to wanting to invest in one of these Olympus DAO or Wonderland kind of projects is that I'm skeptical that with so many out there right now, I don't know myself as an investor which ones look like they're going to endure. What makes you guys feel confident that Kandyland's going to endure where some of these other projects might rug pull or fold?
Well,
Yeah.
I can this one, well, first and foremost is the community of the people we have, and as time goes by, the stronger community will certainly end up joining. And particularly, I'm so kind of bullish on that is the fact that despite there being so many forks, not many of them spend their efforts and their funds to actually get audited and review their to provide enough value for the investors to come in. Essentially, everyone is hunting that 8 billion, 8 trillion APY, which is already kind of like, what else could you be asking for? You can barely get like 10% in a bank, but because world it's possible, everyone's looking for a higher number, when in reality, in the short term, this high APY is just a gimmick. What people don't really quite understand is the fact that APY inversely correlates with actually how many people end up staking. And so therefore, the more people stake, the lower the APY will be. But at the same time, the more people stake, the better it is for the protocol and the people. So they end up, hopping on this train, seeing this 8 billion APY, which is first is not very sustainable in the long term, and second of all, it doesn't really kind of like, what do you expect to get more? You should be happy with it. What's 20% ROI on your investments guaranteed? So we hope that by at least offering our investors a solid platform to invest, to kind of go in on by being KYC'd and audited, it's at least incentive enough to be able to say that Kandyland, okay, this is trustable enough that the funds won't disappear from a potential rug pull or anything of that sort.
Absolutely. Mr. V, did you have something you wanted to say, Nover? Sorry.
I was just gonna pitch in really quick. I think that we're actually might be one of the first few to actually KYC and get a full audit before launch.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
For a fork.
I haven't seen a Wonderland fork get the full audit before its launch. I will tell you that.
Yeah, right.
That is also why it's taking us slightly longer to actually go through our liquidity funding event and
that's right.
Get it all launched. And I hope we can't be really punished or judged for that, for making sure that it goes stably.
I agree. I feel like that's a responsible choice to do for a project that's trying to endure for the long term. Let's go to your all's tokenomics. Mr. V shared the Kandyland tokenomics. Did you guys have anything you wanted to tell us about why you went with this particular spread?
Yeah, I can cover that. Well, so how it works initially, we'll first talk about the full tokenomics of the KANDY token and then move on to the liquidity bootstrapping event in particular.
Yes, absolutely.
So at first we're planning to release 230. Oh my goodness, I can't get the number right. Excuse me. Yeah, 200,000. 3,750 tokens into circulation and spend 5% on the initial development and marketing. So in total, that will mean 12,500 tokens. In US dollars terms, that's $62.5 thousand distributed for marketing, initial development, and so forth. Because we believe that this amount will be enough to cover any unexpected potential things in relation to development, because it's often hard to work with developers that like demand more and more, essentially. And for the marketing, because this platform is heavily dependent on how well the marketing goes. Gotcha. We spent 10% going to the founders, which is quite a bit to some people, but we believe that with the amount of effort and the amount of invested funds that we put in to ensure the security of the protocol, it's not a big ask. The question here comes, how do we want to, how else do we want to prove to our investors that we just won't simply dump the funds in the beginning? And this is, again, we had some discussions in our chat about how we would proceed to vest these funds to avoid this from happening and to ensure some safety kind of going into this, because it's quite a bit of money that we're talking about, which could definitely damage the price of KANDY. And so this is still in the discussions of how we will proceed to do it, but we're more leaning towards creating a snapshot for the participants to vote how they want us to vest the funds for the founders. But another thing to consider is that we as founders also want to engage in the staking and kind of rewarding of staking our funds as well. So there needs to be a kind of balance in between the two factors. Then we're spending 80% of the total tokens on the whitelist. Why that number specifically, we will get into later. And the last 12.5 thousand we will be spending on the initial liquidity mint to fund the reserves. So I hope that clarifies a little bit more of what we're doing. And as we're moving into the LBE in particular, oh my goodness, I can't even talk. But we are seeing 1,000 at first. We're letting in 600 members who will be eligible to invest a minimum of $1,000 MIM or $1,000 and a maximum of $2,000. These are quite high prices, but we believe that the price discrepancy between the launch price and the whitelist price can easily compensate for that. And how this, and as I said, soft cap will be 400,000, and the hard cap that we will be seeking will be 1 million. But you may be asking, we're only letting 600 members in. Wouldn't that be 1.2 million total that could be gathered? And yes, it could be, but we don't find that in particularly necessary. First, we decrease the number of the hard cap for one simple reason: to encourage competition between the whitelisted members, because not everyone will be able to invest the full amount, and it will make it easier for us to gather the funds. And so, okay, now we have this like 1 million MIM. How do we split it apart further? What do we use this money for? Well, 10% will again go to the marketing, pretty self-explanatory, ensuring that the community continues growing and becoming stronger and stronger, which we have following strategies already implemented. 5% will be gone to community management, in particular Discord. 10% more to the founders. This is important to note. Is like, are they being too greedy or not? Well, the reason we're even taking the percentage of the funds from the LBE is to discourage us from selling the KANDY. It doesn't matter what we do with. It doesn't matter what we kind of do with the MIM. It's not going to affect the price of KANDY. But if we end up dumping the 10% that's of the tokens from the KANDY, obviously it will negatively impact that. So yeah, and then the rest of the funds are split between the Treasury and strategic buybacks. On strategic buybacks, I will get into a bit slightly after the Treasury. So we put 55% into the Treasury to ensure that stakers get a proportionate reward. We can offer a high APY. And then, because after any launch, there's going to be bot sniping. There's going to be people, huge whales coming in, pumping and dumping, doing whatever to get their own benefits. And we want to, that is unavoidable. The question is, how do we actually not combat, but stabilize that to the extent that we can see a stable growth in the price of KANDY in particular? And what we have thought after some thorough contemplations was to actually implement strategic buybacks with the funds gathered from the LBE. So we will use, as I said, 20% of the LBE, which is 200,000, for strategic buybacks within the first kind of period after launch, and announcing when those buybacks in specific times are not is not very smart, because people can time that just as with anything else. So yeah, and I hope that clarifies slightly how we're planning to spread the. Oh, sorry, I forgot one more thing. We're planning to put 90,000 MIM along with 12.5 thousand KANDY on Trader Joe for the initial liquidity. So setting the price of the KANDY starting at 7.5 MIM per KANDY. And I hope, again, thank you. I hope that clears everything up in terms of the tokenomics.
Sure. I know one of the hottest items, we've already mentioned the millions of % APY that some of these Wonderland time forks are able to achieve for the moment. Is there anything about the Kandyland staking rewards that you guys want to tell us that might make it a little more appealing than some of these other Ohm forks?
Yeah,
take it this way.
I can partially answer this one at least. I think that we're going to try to go for a more Wonderland pathway here and try to be a bit more balanced and try to sustain a decently high medium APY, but in comparison to these other new ohm forks, it won't be as astronomically high, like in the billions or 100 millions. But we want to try to find a really healthy balance to sustain a good medium to last for a good amount of months at least. I think it's just kind of the most realistic way to actually really sustain the economics of the ecosystem for Kandyland. So we're going to be honest, we're not going to be offering anything, mad, but we will be trying to offer. Yeah,
this is reassuring for me in particular to hear, because I look at a lot of those millions of percent, multi-millions of percent APYs on some of these projects, and I get super Pepe sus right away. Because I always ask myself, where is that millions of percent coming from? Is it coming from the next investor? Because if it is, then this is just a Ponzi scheme in crypto form.
Right.
Yep.
Right. We want to have a healthy runway, a good amount of backing. We want this to be sustainable. We don't want it to be a gimmick or a short-term gain for the founders or anything like that. We're looking to actually, create a fork and into a spoon and actually have it sustained like Wonderland. We want to be up there in the top on the Avax network for sure. So,
which is also important to mention, the Wonderland is crashing hard right now, and it's a little painful to watch.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's very much due to the recent Bitcoin cliff dive.
Yes, I was going to say they got to be related. I mean, I call it the Bitcoin industrial average for a reason.
Yeah. But one issue that I find is that, again, as I mentioned previously, because there was this huge standard set that there needs to be this 1 billion APY, which sounds completely ridiculous when you think about it, and it's not sustainable in the long term unless you are potentially Wonderland, and even they can only sustain
so much.
Highlighting the word only 80,000. Well, of course, we're going to begin with a huge APY on the levels of ridiculous as a marketing strategy to encourage, those hunters to get into the platform as well. But it will soon be cut down to a reasonable price, as more sustainable platforms do right now, as Hector, Olympus, and no, Olympus is too little by this point to be attractive for investors, but Wonderland and Hector.
Yeah.
And there is an important thing to also mention. What is the reward rate that we will be setting? How much essentially percent are you going to be getting per each rebase, which is heavily important because that's what ultimately one of the few things that controls the APY. And this, again, will have to be decided more specifically as we're closer to launch, but we want to ensure that at first we are offering an APY that is not on the ridiculous amount of, say, like 1 million or 900,000, and then rapidly decrease as more people are staking for it to be on a stable amount.
Naturally. It's completely okay if you can't, but can you guys give us any estimation on the shifting of that APY over time, like regular halvings or general fluctuation?
That will have to be in relation to the total supply of candy that comes out, because essentially more and more candy gets minted from the bonding procedure and the staking rewards procedure, we have to ensure that the rates kind of do not inflate too fast. Sorry, that the coins do not inflate too fast and the price drops significantly. Because one thing to remember is that all the revenue comes from most of the revenue comes from the bonding procedure itself. So the more people bond, the more revenue for the protocol. But what's important to note here is that the bonding revenue heavily depends on the market price of candy, right?
Yeah.
So as we are increasing the rewards for the APY and for the staking, say for example we offer some ridiculous amount, that means we're offering an increased amount, we're putting out an increased amount of candy into circulation, which just dumps the price of the token itself. So we have to find that balance again in relation with the total supply that will be beneficial in terms of rewards and in terms of the rewards for the investors and for the DAO.
Awesome. Well, I would be remiss if at this point I didn't ask the security question.
Yep.
Blockchain is a relatively recent thing in the developed world and an incredibly recent thing in the developing world. And I'm kind of curious if Kandyland took any steps to prepare their infrastructure for the various security woes that plague liquidity and farming pools.
Yeah, so this is going to be, absolutely do not want anything like this to happen to us. I've seen it happen to other forks. It's very sad to see them losing millions to exploits and getting hacked.
Yeah.
So we are going to do our best to mitigate this chance, actually completely obliterate the chance of this happening. And one of the ways, the primary way, is getting a full security audit by a third-party firm. And this is what pretty much 99%, probably even 100% of the people of the DAOs that did get hacked or exploited were not, completely fully audited by a third party who's actually known,
Yeah.
And that resulted in that happening to them. So we want to be sure that every part of the code, every single contract, everything being used, the front end, even the back end, is audited, which is going to take a few days actually by the audit firm we're going to go with. And yep, so that's pretty much the main the way we're going to obliterate the chances of any issues like that, because security is very important to me, and I know to the rest of the team as well, because it's our money too that we have invested in this, and we definitely don't want to be responsible for people losing hundreds of thousands, millions. I would feel terrible, so we're definitely taking that very seriously.
Yeah, at least the moral compass is working. So.
Amen. Very important, guys.
Definitely.
Okay, my last question before I kick it straight to the community. Kandyland's release is coming up soon, and we've talked about how you guys are rapidly gaining traction, especially in our part of the internet. I'm wondering, are you guys planning to expand Kandyland further besides the spaces you've already mentioned, like a little NFT, a little music, that kind of stuff? Are there anything you guys going to expand to after release, or are you just going to kind of stick to the staking Ohm Fork stuff?
Kandyland theme park, obviously.
Ooh.
What else? No, but that's in relation to, again.
Can I buy my ticket in Bitcoin?
Candy only, only in Candy.
Ooh, savage. So, Roger that.
But again, following kind of similar roads as Hector is following now with the Hector Bank, very similar ideas could come out. But again, we will be looking at more innovative perspectives on that as well, like looking into NFTs, spaces, and so forth. Alixium can explain slightly more as well.
Yeah, we have ideas, but we haven't completely conceptualized all the ideas in full, so we don't want to start mentioning stuff that may or may not happen, and promise empty promises.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of expanding ideas. But like we want to build a Kandyverse, right? Like a full-on ecosystem surrounding Kandyland DAO. Kandyland DAO is just like the start, right? It's like the Kickstarter for our ideas.
Yeah.
We have a lot of pretty interesting ideas, I think, and unique ideas. And some not so unique, but we'll have our own spins on them. But whatever, it ultimately comes down, because we are going to be a DAO, a full DAO. It comes down to what the snapshot votes are when we put them up for vote. So we'll see a lot.
I feel like people ultimately also forget the fact that they look at Olympus, for example, which aims to be the reserve currency for ETH, right? They look at, and then they look at Hector, for example, which looks to do the same for Phantom. But in reality, Wonderland is on a different perspective on that. They look like Daniel is himself particularly looking at a way to kind of build a huge treasury and go on an entirely different path. And that's kind of what we're leaning towards. I feel like that we will have this huge amount of funds in the treasury, and what do we do with it? Of course, we want to go for certain charity donations, but it will ultimately be for the community to decide. It's a crowdfunding platform, and it's a one that will be driven by the community, which hopefully everyone will benefit if they follow the game theory.
Naturally. All right, cool. With that, we will go straight into community questions.
Amazing.
A combination question from Raisin Bran, X-Surf, Dope, and the Only Lone Wolf are wondering about the auditing and the security of Kandyland. Is there anything you guys want to tell us that you haven't already told us?
Yeah, so I could just say that the audit firm we're going with is CTD Sec. They seem pretty darn trusted and have a lot of other projects they've worked with in the past. You can check their website out. It's CTD Sec. And it looks pretty promising to me, so we're gonna go with them. And that, other than anything else, I mentioned pretty much everything else as far as the audit goes. Any specific questions on that I'm willing to answer as well, but
we can kind of do a quick recap of what the current security measures are. So first, there's a KYC on Alixium.
right.
We're planning to get fully audited. Then again, potential website security adjustments to increase security for that as well. And again, the vesting mechanism, which will be announced as we're nearing the launch period of the protocol.
Yeah, also I'll mention quick, I do want to get a big audit after the launch. When we've raised more funds, because they're very expensive.
Yes.
We want to go with Certic. I know they're very well known in the space, so we want to try to go with them or one of the other big auditors in the space. It's almost like you're buying clout. So, but it's more than that to us, obviously. But they cost a lot. They quoted us for $50,000, so we need to raise that first, in actual liquid funds before we can actually move forward with that. But we would go with them if we could immediately, but we just can't afford it, so we're gonna go with them afterwards. So.
Cool. All right, we have another combo question. This one coming from eBum and Volt. What separates your Kandyland DAO from the others, and how do you sustain it through a harsh DAO market where there seems to be no shortage of copycats?
Certainly, well, as mentioned previously, we're likely one of the few DAOs to get fully audited before the actual launch of the platform. Again, our roadmap talks for itself. We have ambitious plans as to how we want to expand and not be just a simple copycat fourth. We have quite a good team on our hands that is consistently evolving and moving forward. Right now, obviously, the market is sort of going down the drain, but there is also benefits to building and launching on the downtrends, just as there is on the uptrends. So confidence might be lower, but at least the people that go in and trust you more for the project rather than the price of it.
Oh, yeah. All right, Sergeant 13 Bravo asks, how do you plan to achieve value that isn't tied to dollars or fiat currency when those investing in this project are likely to do so with dollars in mind? Do you plan to grow that investment in a way that shows value outside of the traditional dollar fiat financial system?
Well, if I understood the question correctly, is how do we increase the value of the investment, slightly separating from the traditional measures? Well, that's an interesting one to answer, definitely. And first is, again, we are based on the MIM stablecoin, which stands for Magic Internet Money, of course. And that aims to be fully decentralized. So if you're going with something like USDC or other stable coins, well, our treasury will be mainly made up of MIM, and therefore you can move into more the decentralized world and be awarded in staking rewards in SCAN. If I understood that correctly, that's the answer.
Yeah. Also touched on that a little bit. Hopefully, I'm not getting up too far from the question, but yeah, intrinsically, crypto itself is pretty much back to the U.S. dollar. It's pretty hard to separate the entire thing from the U.S. dollar. I mean, it's just or any main fiat currency in the world, I should say. But the difference is we're decentralized, so we have a lot more freedom, which is a double-edged sword, obviously. But I think it's better than its negatives. So we can do a lot more things being backed by MIM and not pegged to it. So we can go up in value and not just stay at the price of $1 or 1 MIM.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a free-flowing value there. So hopefully that answers the question. It's a pretty complex question, I think. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, hopefully it does. Sarge will pipe in and be happy to let us know if that hit it or not.
Of course.
All right. Moving on, Pay the Toll asks, what kind of DAO to DAO relations are you guys building, and are there any particular projects that you would like to work with if you aren't working with them right now?
At first, we're very still early in the process to be like, we have not launched the platform yet. So it's hard to even build a relationship when you don't have a running successful track record of what you have done. Obviously, as we're getting more and more closer to the launch and expect to launch on Wonderland Olympus, simple as that. And Hector Jade seems to be doing quite well as well. And what we also, an interesting idea to consider would be to reward, to compose the value of the treasury, meaning so people can bond using some other DAO's funds, like staked OM or OM itself, so that the value of our treasury grows as well. That'll be an interesting thing to consider.
Absolutely. Okay, Red Panda asks, do you find decentralized organization to be an extra hurdle in the governance of the project or the company, or making organizational changes? And have there been any unexpected difficulties or benefits to working with this model?
So we're technically not fully a DAO yet. It's a bit tough to do that when the project hasn't even launched and you don't really have the funds to back it up. But we definitely have listened to community feedback in general, and we've made a lot of changes to that. If you look, we've made some edits to our tokenomics and the LBE event, the whitelist pre-sale event, based upon feedback, just general feedback, not even a snapshot. But I will say that it probably is slightly a bit of a hurdle, but it's probably a double-edged sword, like a lot of things in business.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's more beneficial to everybody in the long run. And obviously we'll just ignore, like, joke snapshots and stuff like that. We only want to care about the serious people that we know in this community, and obviously only holders can start snapshot votes, and that's kind of where we're gonna go with that. We're not really gonna.
At first, at this stage, there's still some leaders behind the platform, and as we're moving forward, we hope that the community will take over significantly. And and some votes, for example, are very counterintuitive, per se. So Olympus has done many votes on, like, decreasing the rewards rate for the stakers. And if you're just a simple kind of individual that aims to capitalize on short-term gains, you would be like, yeah, of course. You would be fully against it because you don't want your rewards to be cut down in half. But in reality, that helps the DAO overall, and it depends what people we have in our community and whether they want to contribute to the whole DAO or just get in a quick couple candies and get the hell out.
All right. Element asks, what are the quote-unquote real assets that back KANDY, sourcing a Reddit post from r/Kandyland DAO?
Alixium, would you
take it? What Reddit post was that exactly? I'm not in control of Reddit, so I'm not exactly sure exactly.
Oh, I'm not sure which exact post, but the quotation I'm supplied reads, quote,
sure.
Our goal is for KANDY to be a common trading pair, which is backed by real assets, end quote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So we have Magic Internet Money launching. Let's first make this distinction. When we're launching, we're planning to have Magic Internet Money, wrapped Avax, and Avax simply as well, because we are quite enthusiasts of the chain, because we're building our DAO on it. So.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna add more too, by the way, in the future, but that's what we're starting with.
Exactly. Some other considerations, as I said previously, would be like the tokens of other similar reserve protocol DAOs, Ethereum, because Ethereum, Bitcoin, who knows? Shiba Inu, of course, other shit like that.
Shiba Inu.
All right.
So.
Goofy asks, what is the reason for the name of your project, and how is it linked to the project itself? I think he's essentially asking, why is it called Kandyland?
Yep.
Because it was the first thing I thought of a minute in to hey, I want to make it DAO. I want to try to do this, and I'm a pretty creative person, I think, and I am a music producer, so I just kind of came up with the idea, and I thought of all the branding ideas I could do instantly, and the branching out I could do with it, and I think that's pretty. This is really it. There's nothing really complex about it. I just came up. Candyland sounds pretty cool. I can do really cool branding with it.
Yeah, it's Christmas season.
That's
Everyone
another
likes
reason
candy.
too. Yeah, it's not just because of Christmas, by the way. I would have thought of this on on Easter, for example, or whatever, anything. So it's not really just because it's Christmas, but
Yeah.
it is good timing.
And it calls to mind the old Milton Bradley game, if I recall, the board game.
Yeah, right, yeah. I haven't really seen, to be honest, I haven't really seen anybody take that road too. Like, everyone's doing like mythology themed stuff. They're literally copying, so we're really trying to be like stand out and be more like colorful and I guess playful, for a better lack of words.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned you're a music producer. It's an obvious follow-up for me to ask, what's your genre? What do you produce, boss?
Bass music. I also produce hip hop and rap, but yeah, I've been producing for about 10 years now, a little over than that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a hobby and a passion of mine. But yep.
Awesome.
Anything, EDM, pop, anything like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Appreciate
Okay. Absolutely, boss. I'm a music fan, so I have to ask.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
All right. GHSXST. I'm not actually sure how you pronounce your name.
What a
mate.
name.
He asks, are there any specific plans regarding diversification of the Treasury assets beyond magic internet money?
Yeah, as mentioned previously in one of the previous questions, we have Avax, starting wrapped Avax, as I said, Ethereum and other currencies. So.
Well, we do have a lot of new listeners who've joined us, so I figure I might as well ask another sort of question that's already been asked and answered.
Okay, of course.
Kiyukon asks, what does make Kandyland different from other ohm forks, and how do you plan to keep the longevity of the project in a crowded ecosystem?
Yeah, I'll touch on it really quick and you can expand on it.
Yeah.
So, I had this in my Q&A even. Starting out, we really aren't, like, honestly, we're not going to be anything extremely special. No crazy, like proprietary ideas. We're trying to get the funding up to be able to implement stuff like that because it's very expensive for development. But we do have ideas, like we're going to be branching out into the NFT space, including games even, and music, artwork. Staking rewards, because everybody does like vesting for bonding, but we want to have some kind of visual representation for like choosing to stake and like get extra multipliers on the set current APY. So that's kind of something that we're thinking about adding, and we're coming up with some ideas for that. We're still conceptualizing it, but it's kind of the brief idea. And another thing we were thinking about too, and this might be a really tough endeavor, but we're gonna try doing it anyways potentially, is an NFT shop, maybe like candy shop or something like that, and potentially have make it to where it's based on the Avax network, and it's actually a community produced NFTs like music, artwork, and they'd be submitted to us and we would review them and then have drops, exclusive drops from the community that the community can purchase up, and that would be split.
Yeah, and it's such an early question because it would be within a couple of quarters that this would start happening, depending on how successful the launch is. But if you're an investor just seeking to be like, why should I go into Kandy DAO and not any other fork, so to speak, is because one main separator is again the security that we have implemented for the platform, and a strong community, obviously. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. KYC, by the way, and if you don't know what that is for you people, that's basically doxing myself privately to a firm that's trusted, because it's a little risky me putting my personal info out to the internet. I don't like doing that anyways.
Yes.
So
a lot of people relate.
That's right. I'm kind of semi-public though. You just look up Alixium online, you'll see music producer pop up on Google. I'm not like some anonymous face between a dead name. So, but yeah, I'm KYC'd by Assured. DeFi was the first thing I did before this Discord even hit 200 members. Because I thought it was very important. Nobody else was really doing that, so I think that alone separates us from most ohm forks that don't even, that are not really serious or trying to be serious, but they're not taking the steps to show that they are. And also, we're getting an audit by CTDSec before launch, which is a third-party auditing firm. So I think that's really important as well.
Absolutely. Okay. 10th Hokage asks, Why Avalanche? And do you have any thoughts on how Avax's ecosystem is shaping up in 2022?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll touch on it really quick, and then you can
Yep.
go ahead. I think that Avalanche is a really cool network personally, and I see a lot of potential in it. I think it's really quick, under 30 seconds, and it's extremely cheap. I wanted to stay away from Ethereum.
Understandable.
And to be honest, I don't think there's actually all that many. I was looking at a spreadsheet. There's actually not all that many, surprisingly, AVAX-based ohm forks. A lot of them are on like other networks. I was originally going to go with Binance Smart Chain, but I don't know, it's a pretty crowded, flooded network, and there's a lot of scams on there, so
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to stay away from it. And I know I like Avax a lot, so that's just kind of why I went with it. I see a lot of potential in it. As you saw, it was starting to skyrocket until Bitcoin decided to jump off a cliff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, I see
So
I
again,
see it booming back up. Go ahead.
Speed, security, and price. What else could you ask for? Obviously, Phantom in this case is even cheaper, but it's not as adapted yet. And as Hector said, as Prometheus on his AMAs keeps saying, the fact that they went for Phantom in particular because they are waiting for that AVAX moment, for that 10x, 20x on actual AVAX. On actual Phantom. But we decided to go for the more tested and tried kind of chain.
Naturally.
That's right.
Okay. Dark Bear asks, what kind of games will Kandyland be launching?
So this is an interesting question because I have a background in running game development projects a little bit. So we haven't actually really conceptualized an idea yet, but there's a lot of creativity out there and inspiration we can take from successful projects and kind of implement into our own. We haven't, to be honest, we haven't really thought of a specific game yet, because that's a lot of thinking. If you know anything about game design and road mapping for a game, it's the whole project in itself.
Yeah.
So we've been, but it is something that we are serious about. When we say it, we actually mean it, because I love games very much. I grew up playing them. I like game development even more actually at this point. So it's something that I seriously want to implement
Certainly.
to Kandyland.
I think
we'll see what we can do, but for now we have no actual idea. But trust me, we'll come out when we stop focusing on the launch.
Naturally.
I think what's more interesting, I think what should be also more interesting for people is the music aspect, because even talking about Metaverse, the new Reserve Protocol fork, they're still focused on kind of the gaming aspect, but I think we might be the first Reserve Protocol to actually focus on music as well and enhance music on the blockchain and stuff like that.
Awesome. Okay, Harmless asks, what do you guys mean by algorithmic reserve currency, and how does Kandyland become one?
Well, if you're not versed with kind of Olympus, then what this simply means is that every candy that is in circulation will always be backed up by one MIM, one magic internet money. One magic internet money, consequently, is always pegged to $1. So, but however, because it's backed, it can grow in value significantly higher than one MIM, and that is based on the revenue that the protocol generates. So how does the protocol generate revenue? For example, for Olympus, because they're on the Ethereum chain, they get two options. The first one, which is the primary one, is the bonding mechanism. The bonding mechanism simply means the following. So you have you can go on the market, say on Trader Joe or whatever, and buy a candy at 500, or you can go to Kandyland DAO in itself and buy at a discounted price of 450. One important thing to note that this is vested for 5 days, and after 5 days you will get the full amount of candy that you buy. And so think about the following: if you bought at 450 and the market price after 5 days stays the same at 500, you simply already made a good return. And everything above that price goes to the treasury. Not above that price, sorry. Above $1, this is all profit for the treasury. And this treasury is then distributed between the stakers and the DAO itself. And this proportion is also important to consider. How in what kind of, how much will the DAO get itself for its operations, and how much will the stakers be rewarded by it. And and so you buy the candy, you candy. That's as simple as that. And you can all, like, what we can assure is that if the price of the candy falls below $1, then the protocol will start automatically buying back candy using the treasury reserves and burning them to increase the buying pressure and bring the price back to $1, which is essentially why we can, the only thing that this protocol guarantees is that one candy will always be $1. So as an investor, the strategy should be buy as close as you can to that $1 mark. If the further it is from that $1, the more premium you're paying for your candy.
Thus,
or for your
the
token.
terminology algorithmic reserve currency, because the
Yes,
algorithm ensures
exactly.
it will remain at the given
at
price.
$1.
In layman's terms, it's a system built upon math. So
Yeah.
it's that's just basically how it's just kind of fancy wording for a system built upon math.
Exactly. So, and again, what if, say, you're a bonder, you benefit more, like you're playing on the shorter term side, whereas the point of this is to just kind of stake your token, in our case candy, and hold it, getting exponential returns, which is what APY essentially means. So when you see this like huge APY, they are essentially promising that your investment is gonna increase by that much percent after a year, which is, if you bring this to some traditional folks in the financial world, they're gonna look at you like, what crazy Ponzi scheme are you running?
Eyebrows will be raised, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
I've stopped explaining this to people because I'm like, I sound like a kook to myself.
Yeah, literally.
Okay. Zarni asks an appropriately more advanced, less layman question. Do the developers plan to add layer 2 in KANDY just like Matisse and other similar projects? And also DEX support to get multiple assets?
Sorry, could you go on?
No, re-ask it quick
Yeah.
for me.
Sure, no problem.
I couldn't quite hear.
Does the development team plan to add layer 2 to KANDY DAO just like Metis, METIS, and other similar projects? Maybe DEX to support other assets?
So yeah, I can answer the DEX part. We do plan on implementing our own kind of DEX, if that's kind of what he's asking.
I think
but
so.
that takes a lot of development, and so that is planned. Actually, I have it on the roadmap, I believe.
Yeah.
I think I have it on the roadmap. But yes, we do plan on implementing our own kind of DEX and cross-chain support and bridging and stuff like that. That is down the road, as you can see on the roadmap, because it's very advanced stuff and complex to implement. But we wanted to get the fundamentals down before launching first.
Exactly.
So we have the funds to do that. Maybe
I cannot really add to this question much. I haven't heard of Metis. As Alixium said, we are planning to include the new DEX.
Okay. Zacek asks, how many options will you have for staking on release? And any ideas on your release APY? Also, NFTs, will they also be able to be staked?
I assume he means bonding.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Because there's only one option for staking. You put your candy, you get us candy. Gotcha. Unfortunately, there's no more other options.
Okay.
For minting, for bonding and minting, it's going to be initially it's going to be wrapped Avax, Kandy to MIM liquidity pool, MIM, and Kandy to Avax liquidity pool. That's our initial minting or bonding options. Staking
NFTs would also be quite interesting, but slightly down the line, because it's an entirely new kind of.
Gotcha.
That's a system we plan on implementing too.
Okay. Metamorphosis has a question about markets in the developing world. They would like to know, because many of these projects are focusing on North America and Europe, while there is still high growth of interested crypto nerds and blockchain people in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, India, and Indonesia. And the main question is, does Kandyland have any plans for users in these markets specifically?
Well, I think the cool thing about decentralized finance is it's worldwide. It's not limited to
Yeah.
one specific
Exactly.
country. And to be honest, we've been pretty inclusive. We hired mods so far for pretty much every part of the world that understands the languages. Because I'm just a dumb American. I don't understand the languages. So we do have a bunch of chat channels for most of the languages. And if we're missing a language, they can always request it, and we'll put it right in and get a mod for it. So those communities are already pretty active. Honestly, the French one in particular, they're going off. So we appreciate their support. And
Yep.
basically, it's there's no limitation other than like governmental limitations on crypto and for those specific countries that we're putting in place for any specific countries. We definitely want to be as inclusive as possible and not exclude. We want to give everybody the opportunity for wealth growth. So that's kind of my idea.
I got nothing to add. He summed it up pretty well. It's decentralized finance. If you have an access to a computer, you likely have an access to crypto. So.
Cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Peaky Pips asks, will there be a multi-sig for security reasons? I'm assuming he's asking about accessing the Treasury funds.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
that's actually one we haven't covered, Alixium.
Yeah. So actually, we've been talking about that. It's a bit tough to find influencers that want to hop on this on a new project, but I actually have one influencer. He's got about 6,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's a pretty cool guy. I think I'm gonna get him on board to the multi-sig. And we have, we got more people to find. Obviously, I think it's gonna be obviously me and Nover as well. It's gonna be either a 5 out of 3. Or 3 out of 5, SIGs required,
or 5 out of
5
7.
out of 7, yeah. So we're trying to, it's a big process, believe it or not, because we have to find people that are trusted with a following. We need to find people that aren't going to like collude with each other to pull out the liquidity under everybody, including the founders. So, it's a very serious. So I'm trying to actually find people that are known to the community and trusted. And first we have to prove to those people that Kandyland DAO
we
is
are
a
trustful.
project. Yeah, that we're trustful. It's a serious project in the first place, because they don't want to link their name to something that's just ending up being a complete, rug pull or something.
Yeah.
But yes, it's something we've been considering, but it's more complex than you think. It's not black and white. It's a pretty tough thing to figure out. We're not just going to say, yeah, we got 5 people and they're all anonymous. Good luck. We're going to actually try to find faces to link to the project for that.
Yep.
Okay. Dark Bear asks, is the pre-sale minimum purchase specified? I believe you guys said it earlier.
Yes.
But
1,000 men.
Okay, 1,000 magic internet money.
That's right, and the max is 2,000. So we did that because we want serious investors to support the project. At the same time, we want to make sure we meet the minimum or the soft cap of 400,000. And also, we maxed it out at 2K because we don't want bots to buy everything up. We don't want to accidentally whitelist a bot and then they just purchase a bunch of the the goods. So
yeah.
One important kind of thing to mention is that for our liquidity bootstrapping event, how we're initially gathering the funds, we have followed a procedure that Fortress DAO did, which have been quite successful lately and have around 12,000 members on their Discord. Their treasury is growing and everything is going quite well, but their initial liquidity bootstrap event was slightly kind of, how would I put it, disrupted by the presence of bots, because they initially had a private sale and then a public sale and then a public reveal. I'm not too sure on the details, and they got
what happened was
by bots.
They did a private one. It went really smooth. Then they did the public stage, and it got absolutely slaughtered by bots. So we're doing 100% whitelisted private. So we're learning from their mistakes. Yep. So it's going from private whitelist to 24 to 48 hours open DApp. That's how it's going to work.
Yeah. And the 24 to 48 hours depends how fast we fill out our obvious amount that we're seeking, which is 1 million. So.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, I want to just thank Peach Pie, the leading, developer for Fortress, to actually give us the codes to their contract.
Yeah, Peach Pie. Yeah, Peach Pie. Yeah.
Okay. DX asks, long-term speaking, is the community treasury going to hold only Magic Internet money since you guys are launching on different blockchains? Also, on that same note, is the DAO cross-chain?
The DAO is initially not cross-chain, but it's again It will be, as he said, long-term plan. And even starting, to answer his second question, even starting, we're planning to hold Avax, wrapped Avax, Magic Internet Money. But what's important to also recognize is, as an investor analyzing these DAOs, is that essentially when you are holding a stable currency such as MIM and your Treasury, you know what the value is. But when you're switching to something like Avax, where the value is volatile, then the Treasury, the amount of funds in the Treasury will also be volatile, because they will be holding that particular asset. So it's the matter of finding, those assets which also grow in the long term, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, or something like that, and slightly more risky assets which we are essentially betting on, and stables to ensure that the candy in circulation is backed up.
Okay. Crypto Eggroll asks, how many are a part of your team? How many developers? And is the whole team going to dox publicly in the future, or just Alixium, the founder?
Yeah, so I can answer that. Right now we got 3 core founders. We got Alixium, that's me. We got Nover, and we got Athelion. And then we got, for the core devs, we have 2 core devs. And then staff, I think we have 3 or 4 staff members. That's like admins, basically admins. And then we have community mods, and they're just kind of the language mods. And it's growing every not every day, but every week. Maybe we get a new staff member that can contribute something, whether that's language translation for moderation.
And there is one team member you forgot as well. We have a designer who's actually, I see him in the chat, Ashwin. Right. He's done an excellent job. We're redesigning our entire DAO after, or like mid-launch. So
yeah, so don't want to forget him. He's been extraordinarily.
Yeah. If anyone needs any design, I'm giving a shout out. Go to Ashwin M89 in the chat. He's awesome. He's the real one. So.
Very nice.
To answer the KYC question though, quick. I think that is a really good idea. I have been thinking about that as well, to get all the members KYC, but we can afford it. It's not cheap. It's like $3,000 to 1 ETH each KYC. So I think we're going to do that for the core members. And
certainly,
when we do find long-term developers for this project, and I think we have, we're going to also get them KYC'd as well, because we want full transparency and trust.
One struggle that we have faced is actually finding the developers that would stay for the long term and understand what we're seeking them to do, because there have been some troubles in relation to this. Some developers not understanding, some not working, and when everyone is anonymous, it's hard to enable this trust factor, essentially.
Yeah, and then you have the cross-cultural discourse that occurs.
Exactly.
Where someone might simply not understand where someone else is coming from.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well,
it's important to ensure all of this. So.
Absolutely. We're getting near the end. I just have a couple more. Xsurf asks, where, when, and at what price can we buy candy?
So, right now we have 50 more whitelist spots left. You can join our Discord server and get an announcement probably later today on the next event. It's the last chance you'll have to get into the whitelist. Other than that, everybody will have a public chance at $7.50 for the public DApp launch.
Yeah, in comparison to $5.
That's right, compared to $5 for the whitelist. So $5 on the whitelist and $7.50 on the public launch, and that's going to take place. The public DApp launch is going to take place 24 to 48 hours after the whitelist has concluded, or the whitelist event, the LBE, we're calling it Liquidity Bootstrap event, has concluded. That gives us time to transfer the funds where they need to go, ensure that the DApp's working properly, and which we already would have done with the audit, but make sure it's working in actual practice with the real funds. So once that's done, then we're going to make an announcement before it happens, and then it's going to go live.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got a sneaky last question that got slid in here that's good. I have to ask it. Peaky Pips asks, you guys mentioned you have an APY similar to Time, which is currently at 80,000%. Considering that $1 billion is being staked, yet it's still providing 80,000%. For Kandyland's early stages, can you guys estimate how much APY there will be at the beginning, considering a small market cap?
It's again, like, the important thing to consider is that the APY is essentially a lot of it is a marketing strategy. A lot of
Yes.
it, the higher APY, we can set the APY at 20 billion, but then for people that actually understand slightly more about it, the runway for that will be like significantly less. Of course, in the beginning stages, we will set the APY, as I said, I don't know, $1 million. A million seems like a great number, rounded and sexy. And then move on, move on to decrease, and as we decrease the runway, let me just make the clarification. The runway is essentially how much the DAO can sustain the APY at that current treasury level. So obviously, the higher the APY, the less time it can sustain at that treasury level. So we at first set something high and then decrease from there. So expect $1 million and then gradual but rapid and strategical decreases from there.
All right. And our final question for the stream from a user whose name I cannot read. I apologize. However, I will read your question exactly as written. Quote, "This question is for both founders as well as the moderator. I apologize for the technically worded question. At the risk of this question going over the entire audience's head, I shall ask it nevertheless. What is your favorite candy?"
I don't know how to answer that. I'm sorry. It's very complex.
It's like not worth investing after this. The both of the founders don't know their favorite candy.
I'm gonna go ahead and say mine though. It's definitely York peppermint patties. They're just so good.
Ooh.
I like a bounty.
Ooh, I hope York peppermint patties aren't a deal breaker for any Bitcoin investors in the room. Ouch. As for myself, I am ashamed to admit that I am a sour gummy worms person. Yes, I am a monster.
Yeah.
It's
wow,
true.
dude.
I'm horrible,
Okay.
I know.
I think this interview must be proclaimed over.
All right. Well, excellent. Guys, give us your shout outs. Is there anything else you want us to know right here at the end about Kandyland?
Yeah, so if you want to join the Discord, it should be in our custom partner channel in this Discord server here. It's just KANDY. It's just discord.gg/KANDY. And with a K, by the way, not a C, K.
Yeah.
And also, again, our whitelist event is probably going to take place within a week max. So, the 16th max of December. So make sure that you get in. If you want to try to get in, head onto the Discord and check around for events.
Again, I'd give a shout out to Ashwin. If you need some designs, go hit him up. Again, we are trying to be as transparent and strategical as possible with the launch, ensure the safety of our investors. So if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to explain with other members. We have quite a strong community behind us, and for that, I want to thank you all. And we hope to continue growing and hope to have you on board because we're going to the moon.
And I want to mention one quick thing. I will be, for anyone that's concerned, I will be the only one handling the funds and the transfers of the funds because I'm the one that's KYC'd.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about any of the staff members going behind my back or anything like that. They have no control of anything. So, yeah, hopefully that's gives you some insurance.
Awesome. Well, guys, everybody in chat, the entire team from Kandyland, it has been my pleasure to host this conversation and interview about Kandyland, a very fascinating new Ohm fork running on Avalanche that will be available very, very soon. My name is Irreverent Nexus. It has been my honor and a privilege to host this team. I want to thank Alixium and Nover for stepping up and answering all of our questions. Mr. V for helping to put this all together. The entire team at the Wolves of Wall Street. Praisen for the background artwork as always. You rock. And this community without which these shows would not exist. You guys make this happen. And as a result, we keep doing it. Thank you all. It has, as always, been my pleasure. And with that, we will be going out. We hope you all will join us again soon.
Thank you guys for having us. It was a pleasure to speak with you all. We hope we clarified any questions or concerns as well.
I appreciate all the community support, and I appreciate Wolves for hosting this with us. It really makes the community come alive and actually be a thing, so I appreciate it all.